He knows God. He knows God blessed him in his state. He looks at his boys. Says, I don't know what these futures are going to look like. I know one of them, that eventually Messiah is coming through him. I got that part. But at the rate they're going to kill each other. And that's not what happens. When you go through and read the story, the next time that Jacob and Esau meet each other, do you guys remember that story? When Esau is coming from afar, and Jacob thinks, because it says in the scriptures, Esau said when Jacob left, I hate him. And the first shot I get when our father's dead, he's history. He's toast. He thinks he's got a blessing, he's going to have a dead blessing. And all of a sudden we read, as you read through the story in Genesis, when Jacob, you got to love Jacob, I'm sorry. He sees Esau in the distance coming. And he puts everybody out in front of him and Joseph. It's kind of like, well, after he kills them, he'll get to them and he'll kill them and then he'll kill. It's really, the point is this anyway, I'm getting off track. Esau meets his brother and Jacob is bowing before him. Part of it is still manipulation. You got to remember, Jacob is a classic manipulator. Classic. You want to take a course in manipulation? Read Jacob. He pulls every trick in the book. There's a book of psychology just studying Jacob. Classic manipulator. He goes and he bows before Esau. Is he repenting? No, he's playing the odds.
His name means supplanter.
Yeah.
He lived up to his name.
What does Esau do? He has him stand up. He weeps on his shoulder. I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy to see you. Jacob is still, well, here, take this. No. God has blessed me tremendously. And you know what Esau's thinking? Way back at the beginning, I said, what good is it to be the son of Isaac? What good is it to be a son of God? I find that question powerful, because probably in my own life, I've been challenged by things where I'm fighting between maintaining my stance as a Christian and going the way of God, or almost saying, what good is it being a Christian? I got to do this, I got to do that. What good is it? That's what Esau asked, basically. We were joking with Joe and Nancy at the bed and breakfast place this last weekend, because when Nathan was about 7 or 8 or something, he got really upset because he wanted to do something, and we didn't allow him to do whatever it was, I don't remember. But he said to Carol, what good are parents anyway? You know, and as a parent, you look down at this little peanut and you say, excuse me? Hello? Are you kidding? You can't be serious. But in his mind, the question is being asked, what good is it being your son? I can't do what I want. It's a kid. What are you going to do with a kid? You laugh. It's just, I would just say, pummel them. Oh, I thought you said pummel them. I thought, yeah, we did that too. Yeah. Anyway, in our summary, all I'm saying is Isaac blesses both sons regardless of their activities, their values, their choices. He blesses both of them. He doesn't judge them. He blesses them. He knows the ways, the will, and the wisdom of God. And his own judgment, he might have just done a number of different things. But knowing God, it only left him one thing to do. Blessed like my father blesses. And these are both his sons. When we got to Jacob, verse 21, would you read verse 21 again, somebody?
By faith Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph, and worshipped leaning on the top of his staff.
Now it's kind of interesting, because Jacob, instead of referring to the fact that he blessed his sons, which he did, you can read about it in Genesis 49, he blesses everybody. But here, the writer of Hebrews skips over the Joseph generation and goes to his grandchildren. He blesses the sons of Joseph. Does anybody know or remember where Joseph kind of gets those two sons from, Manasseh and Ephraim?
Somewhere not good. I can't remember where.
In Egypt.
Yeah.
He's sold down into Egypt. God's hand, God's blessing is on Joseph. He's got a horrendous journey. You want to talk journeys. You know, from having a prophetic word, from prophecy, to the pit, to the palace, to the prison, back to the palace. It's a whole bunch of peas. It preaches real nice. It's a preacher's dream when you preach Joseph. Point being, these two boys, Manasseh and Ephraim, are half-breeds. Because Joseph is of the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but he marries in Egypt an Egyptian woman. So if we want to liken his two sons to anybody, we could go back to his great-grandfather, Abraham, who has an Egyptian, Hagar, and has Ishmael. So we can liken Manasseh and Ephraim almost to Ishmael, if we wanted to. They're half-breeds. And the writer of Hebrews goes out of his way to say, and Jacob looked at these two half-breeds. They were not Jewish. He looks at these two half-breeds and he blesses them. Again, we said a lot about Jacob. We have that same phraseology when he was dying, like his father. But it says he blessed each of Joseph's sons who were half-breeds. Let's put it that way. Half-breeds. It says that he worshipped. And if we study Jacob, we find out it took a long time, a real long time for Jacob to come to the point where he actually worshipped God. He got beyond himself. In other words, we can worship God when we come together on Saturdays and Sundays and then live for ourselves the rest of the week. Or maybe we do a few good things throughout the week, so we're still kind of like in worship mode. But for the most part, we live our lives the way we want them to. We're not even thinking about worshiping God. Then there's a lifestyle of worship where really every day we do worship God. We put him first in everything, whatever it might be. Jacob finally gets to the point where he's actually worshiping God. Not testing him half the time. Jacob was the one, after he has that dream of Jacob's ladder, you'd think, wow, if I had a dream like that, the angels of God ascending and descending, surely God is in this place. What an awesome place this is. I mean, it would have been nice if the conversation ended there. But then we hear Jacob saying, so, if God does the things that he says he's going to do, you can go back and read about it in Genesis. If God says that he's going to do the things he said he's going to do, then he'll be my God. I think there's a bit of Simeon-like there. I want to say this, that I agree with our prayers that he has like a revelation of God. But I would like to see that revelation of God come through the things that are in his heart that God actually responds to first, so he knows that there is a God and there is one to be worshipped. We want our kids to worship God. And our kids are going, why? But when they see God move in their lives, and a very powerful and meaningful, whatever it might be, it could be healing, provision, anything that happens, now they get to the place where they go, whoa, God is in this place. They go, great, so you're all set. No, if he does the things, you know, because there is that Jacob that's in us, all of us. And I think when we read Hebrews 11 or read the stories in Genesis, we get these revelations of God and revelations of ourselves, that all of us are like kind of thing, to be honest with you. And with Jacob, he's classic. With Jacob, he finally gets to the point where he's worshiping God. And remember, well, I shouldn't say remember, blessing is an act of worship. When we bless our kids or bless people in the workplace, you know, these animals that are around us, these animals that are taking the Lord's name in vain, who are doing all kinds of things that absolutely disgust God. Really? You think so? Or do you think it makes him sad?
Sad.
Really? Every single, you see so many helpless and hopeless people in your profession. You do too, but in a different way. They come in, their whole lives are geared around a car. If that doesn't make us cry, nothing will. Seriously, a car? A car? And so when we bless them in their absolute confusion, everything that they're, and we're blessing them as an act of worship, because we worship God. Blessing is an act of worship. It may not be singing a song, dancing around a sanctuary, reading the Bible, fasting. It might not be any of those things. It's just blessing. It's an act of worship. I'm worshiping God in this blessing, so to speak. It says that he worshiped, and it says he's leaning on the top of his staff. We need to remember the reason why Jacob has a staff is because he tried to wrestle something from God that God was willing. Just push, yeah. He wanted to wrestle something from God that God had already given him. It just hadn't come to pass yet. So he wrestles and says, give me the blessing, give me the blessing. And the angel's saying, you're blessed, Jacob, you're blessed. Give me that, I'm not letting you go until you bless me. And it says how they wrestled all night long. You wrestled. They wrestled all night long. And finally the angel touches his hip. Bam! Wrestling match over. It really wasn't a match, really. It was just the angel of the Lord basically saying, I really don't want to get to the point where I make you cripple. I told you, you have the blessing. Relax, Jacob. Let it come in due course, in due time. You have the blessing. Jacob thinks he's going to be able to wrestle something from God that God has already given him. And so from that point on, it says he limped the rest of his life. He needed the staff to be a constant reminder. You don't have to wrestle something from God he's already given you. You don't have to wrestle something from God he's already given you. You don't have to wrestle. That's the way I read it. It also, their staffs for the Jews, the Jewish shepherds and stuff, I don't know if you know, they would carve the greatest events of their lives on the staff. So if you looked at like Moses or Jacob's staff, you would see all these little carvings of Hebrew characters, and it would be telling the most significant times in their lives. So when they leaned on their staff, they were always reminded, you can lean on God. You can lean on him. He's faithful. That's what my grandmother said. She judged him faithful, and she received strength. It's a beautiful, beautiful picture of Jacob. The sad part, it's at the end of his life when he's dying. It took him a real long time. You're half our age. And we can say to you, all of us in this room are over 60?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
63.
Okay.
Almost.
I keep thinking of you as a few years younger than me.
Mm-hmm. Just a couple months.
Okay. So what is like imparted and said to you? Listen, been in this thing a long time. Been in God a long time. He's been in me a long time. If nothing else I could tell you, I can't tell you a lot, I don't understand a lot. This much I know. You can trust God. And if you put a notch in your staff, you'll look back 30 years from now and say, oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. So, I guess basically what I see here before we end with Joseph, basically what I see is that Isaac blesses Jacob and Esau. They're both thoroughbreds. They're Jewish. Jacob goes beyond his 12 sons, goes to his grandchildren who are half-breeds, Manasseh and Ephraim. He goes beyond Israel, and he goes to the Gentiles, and he pronounces a blessing on the half-breeds. He knows there's got to be a blessing on him because he blessed my grandfather's side of the family over here with Ishmael. God blessed him. Why can't I bless Manasseh and Ephraim? They're my son's children that he had in Egypt. And you see the blessing is just more profound we won't go to Acts 10 and all that and read it all. But the blessing goes back to the original blessing that God said to Abraham, that I will bless all the nations of the earth through you. Now, we're not alone when we say, I never thought of it that way. Quite that way. Even, and I know that because even when we get to Peter and Cornelius, when he has the revelation, now I know that God is no respecter of nations and people and all that. He's like just in the blessing business. If you're walking around this planet, you qualify. If you're an atheist, you qualify. If you're a Muslim, you qualify. Doesn't matter who you are. You qualify because you're alive. And if you're alive, God is more than happy to bless you. Peter has that revelation at Cornelius' house. This is not something that you normally hear talked about in church because we really would like to be a little bit more sectarian about it. And we'd like to believe that we're in the right place and everybody else is in the wrong place. And, you know, we'd like to kind of divvy up the camp, so to speak. God made it very clear from the beginning with Abraham. Genesis 12. His plan was for every nation of the earth to be blessed through Abraham's seed. The New Testament makes it clear. Abraham's seed is not the Jews. Abraham's seed is people of faith that have put their faith in Jesus Christ. Those are the blessers, if you would. They go around blessing everybody. Esau, Jacob, Manasseh, Ephraim. If you're alive, God wants to bless you. That's a powerful, once we really get that and bless everybody indiscriminately, things change, people change. Did you have something you wanted to say, or?
No.
I wasn't sure, okay.
I was just thinking how all these heathen, pagan people being blessed is kind of very interesting.
It's very beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I know about like God looking at, you know, the people that come to me there. It's so sad and so, you know, grievous. I just imagine how God sometimes is just so sad and grieved, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yet He wants to bless and He offers this blessing.
And I think one of the coolest things about God is everything He does, He knows before He does it that there's a lot of people that are going to take His name in vain, that don't believe in Him, that raise their fists at Him, that develop arguments that He's the you know, the list goes on and on and on. It doesn't slow Him down. It's just like, yeah, I know I'm misunderstood, but I understand you. You're not misunderstood by me. And I'm just going to keep blessing you. I reign on the just and the unjust. That's what Jesus said. We go in circles like, what? Of course, you know, the reign. No, stop and think. Don't you think that God could reign here on my property and the next house over that don't honor Him? He could just hold back the reign over that. I mean, He could do any of those things. And He said, oh, what kind of a God would I be if I didn't bless everybody? And then He calls us to bless those who curse you, like I do. They curse me all the time. Bless those who curse you. That's what Jesus said.